Hola, hello, my name is Rosa Velazquez. I am from DeQueen, Arkansas. I'm a trustee of the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, and I'm also a community organizer for immigrants' rights here in Arkansas. I want to start off by thanking everyone here. This is the Winthrop Rockefeller's first ever Story Slam. Stories that change hearts, minds, and policies. This will be a transformative experience for all of you. Organizers and advocates are our heroes, and not just because I am one, but we are heroes. Every great hero has a story to tell. Today, we have 5. The Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation is hosting this Story Slam because Governor Asa Hutchinson has declared October as Advocacy and Organizing Month here in Arkansas. We are sharing lived immigrant moment. We are sharing the lived experiences organizers and advocates have here in our communities. Stories are how we learn as individuals and how we build communities, and they're our most powerful tool in our organizing and advocacy. Governor Winthrop Rockefeller set out to help Arkansas write a new story for themselves, one where Arkansas truly is the land of opportunity. We believe it is through stories that we will continue to relentlessly pursue progress, realizing our shared vision of a thriving and prosperous Arkansas that benefits all Arkansans. I want to thank the Herstory Writers Workshop. A little bit about Herstory Writers Workshop. It's a place where activists and organizers meet to share stories. I want to thank Herstory Writers Workshop for helping organizers and advocates create the stories that they're about to share. I also want to thank the University of Arkansas Clinton School of Public Service, the first school in the nation to offer a Master's of Public Service degree. The University of Arkansas Clinton School of Public Service gives students the knowledge and experience to further their careers in the areas of nonprofit, governmental volunteers, and the private sector service. Thank you to the Clinton School for hosting this event. And I also want to thank the Yarn. The Yarn believes in the power of story to break down barriers, to gain greater understanding in our neighborhoods, and to change hearts and minds. I want to thank the Yarn for helping spread the word. How many of you have a cell phone? This is the only time that you're allowed to take it out. I want you to visit I encourage you to visit the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation's Facebook page, like it, and throughout the month of October, check it out, because we're going to be featuring tons of stories from organizers all throughout the state. I also encourage you to use the hashtag OAOM to join the conversation about organizers and advocates here today. And lastly, there will be shared written versions of our stories on our website. And I know that today we are live streamed through the Clinton School. So you can put your phones up now. I would like to welcome Rupa Dash, the CEO of World Woman Foundation, to the stage.
Oh, I'm really tall. So, good afternoon, everybody. I can say Arkansas, which is phenomenal, but that's not my story. Let me start my story first. Against the lingering light and the wisp of the mist hanging in distance, laborers work in lush green paddy fields. Bullock carts lurch along the dirt roads, women and girls balancing oversized loads on their head hurriedly walk towards their destination. I remember my sweet childhood in the countryside of eastern India. I remember wondering what lies beyond my countryside home. A branch, a reed thatched door, open to our modest one-room home with a sloping floor. From the kitchen corner adorned with heavy iron pots, a stone grinding wheel, and an oil lamp, my mother whispered in my ears, "The world is yours. You can do anything." She struggled with her intention. Her intention was me. She said, "I made a tough decision between my life and yours to bring you to this world. And the universe has decided to give you wings. You must fly. You must fly. These words grew wings from an early age. I saw myself as a boundless soaring bird, embracing the sky, the seasons flowing to the rhythm, a co-creator of beauty within all around me. Despite the determination to fly, the education was hard-won. My mother saved each single day, ignored the nagging hunger pangs, so my siblings and I could attend school. The rural missionary school classroom was crammed with desks where uniform-clad students sat under the teacher's laser focus, and some kids on the back of the room never cared what the teacher taught, and that was me. All my counterparts took notes with ease. It was harder for me. Usually, a time during school lunchtime with no lunchbox was kind of awkward. In 16 years, I can't remember bringing a single lunch to school. As friends gathered to share what they bought, I stood away pretending I wasn't hungry until the class resumed. However, university led me to New Delhi, India's capital, a world away from rural life, where I could spread my wings, explore beyond the paddy fields. In one of the oldest hubs of civilization, the modern apartments towering over historical monuments, the frantic commerce, the education districts sat erratically along the river Ganges. At night, I would often imagine the paddy fields with only a splash of moonlight to guide me through the vast possibilities. I'm here to create. And the same question always came to my mind. Where is home? Where do I belong? Today, as I watch women and girls move from row to row, laden with farm tools, busily working in Arkansas Delta rice paddies, I remember the day I met Jessie at a Little Rock salon, so far from my childhood home. I met Jessie's younger daughter, Sarah, that day too. And Jessie told me, my mother is working today. I have no one to keep Sarah, so she's with me at the salon. Sarah is a 5-year-old, beautiful, young, a vibrant girl, just like my daughter, Ayati, of the same age. Our paths at that day really crossed as a divine appointment, made for an easy, deep conversation. Jessie shared with me that she is born in Arkansas Delta. Agriculture is the king. Rice, cotton, soybean fields stretch as far as I can see. In fact, where Jessie's mother works is in the rice field. I got excited. I said, I grew up in rice fields too. I tell Jessie, remember, my mother and aunts and other women in my village doing back-breaking work in the fields even when they're pregnant. And oftentimes, when the silky mud spread into their space between the toes, they would laugh and say, what a sensual feeling. And they would work sunlight until the sunlight would allow them. Neither of us really wanted to end that conversation, but the client was about to leave, and Jessie still wanted to continue the conversation with me. We became instant friends. Jessie invited me to her home in southeast Arkansas, the town of Stuttgart. This is a rare night. She doesn't have to do her other job, and she invited me to her home. How exciting. Her modest home is crammed with simple wood crucifixion on the wall, with no electricity, no gas, no plumbing. Jessie's home is as basic as they come. Jessie tells me about her community. She talks about women like her mother who work in rice fields. They struggle for a better life, a life that seems to be eternally out of reach. I resonate with her story. It's my story too. Whether a small town in Arkansas or a tiny village in India, we shared the same narratives. These women are us. We are everywhere, and we deserve to be heard. It was a full moon night. The brilliant full moon light splashes over Jesse's window, calling us for a fresh air and to see the magnificent Stuttgart paddy fields. Our visit held a special place of exchange of ideas and stories, but one powerful idea was born that day: to create a platform which intentionally serves women in Arkansas, especially in the Delta region. This platform, the Global Mentorship Program, was born that day on the edge of the rice paddy fields in Stuttgart, in Arkansas. My decision to move to United States was driven by a desire to build a better life for my family. So far from home, I realized my new home should feel like home, my lush, green rice paddy home. It didn't take me too long to recognize the stark similarities between here and there, whether in Orissa, the eastern part of India, the Delta of India, or the Arkansas Delta. The human experiences, particularly for women in large, is the same. From my home, I observed, I felt, I struggled, the joys, the disappointments, the love. I wanted to belong. I bristled with the question, where am I from? Where do I come from? Where I was born, where I was raised, does that define me? Where is home? This is home. Where am I here? I am here now. This is home. I'm here to serve those around me now. I'm still that bird, soaring high, looking for home. I see women struggling here and this far from a developed country, with the same issues faced here and there. It's past time really to create a land of opportunity for all, no matter which delta is home, whether the eastern part of India, the Ganges, or the Mississippis. Parity is right. Equal pay for equal work, fair treatment should be the norm. It should not be an unimaginable dream. More than injustice for women who work so hard for little wage, this vicious disparity affects entire families. My soul still longs for the sunshine. My bone still dreams of its warmth. My breath searches for its rays. As a woman with deep connection with the Ganges and Mississippi, geographically so apart, I want to be that bird who soars from shore to shore, experiencing people, identifying problems, and exploring the possibilities to solve common issues, effect real changes, possibilities to change, and co-create a human experience that is beautiful. Am I home yet? In the heart of America, as the golden sunlight beams and rises above the vast paddy fields, the sunshine revolution has just begun, and I am home.
Thank you, Rupa. In the words of your beautiful mother, I'm gonna cry. The world is yours. You can do anything. Rupa's struggle, resonance, and life brought her vision to reality in the Global Mentorship Program, which we are grateful for today. Next, I want to present to you Candace Williams, the Executive Director of the Rural Community Alliance.
All right, how's everybody doing? Anything that's harder than going first is going second. So here I am. The title of my story is 350, and it kind of tells the story of how I came into the work of nonprofit and public education advocacy. So, dun, 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 dun. Okay. Candace Williams. Applause and cheer by family members and friends followed my name being called by my high school principal. I remember feeling so proud when I walked across the stage and received my diploma. Glee filled my heart as I carefully navigated that stage so I wouldn't trip or fall. I'm so clumsy. As I made it back to my seat and sat down, I was overwhelmed with sadness. It finally hit me that I was a part of the last graduating class from the Elaine High School. That sadness turned into anger. Why were they closing our school? Sure, we'd had issues, but the district had made strides overall. Our beloved alma mater was closing due to the infamous Act 60. Our school was closing because there were under 350 students enrolled for 2 consecutive years. SOS, save our schools, save our schools. A group of us chanted this while directing people to our car wash fundraiser at the Walmart in West Helena. We still had that hope. We washed a lot of cars on that hot summer day. We were ending the day when a girl that I knew from a neighboring town walked up. See, their school closed in 2004. I remember this moment like it was yesterday. She liked one of my cousins, so she mostly came over to show off and let him see how she looked in her short shorts. She said, SOS. I hope that stands for Save Our Souls, because y'all definitely won't be saving that school. I wanted to punch her in the face. Like, for real. See, she was indeed telling the truth, but I just couldn't believe it. I still had hope. As the time drew near to May 12, 2006, I witnessed that hope fade away in the eyes of my peers, teacher, and community. I always say, in order to get to Elaine, you have to be going to Elaine. It's at the southern end of Phillips County, infamously known for the Elaine Massacre of 1919. Racial issues run deep. What started as black farmers standing up for themselves ended with bloodshed. That's what our town is most known for. See, the closure of Elaine School District happened long before 2006. In fact, there were enough children residing in the area to keep the numbers well above 400. A number of families never gave the district a chance. Most white families chose to enroll their children in private schools in the area. They were about 99.9% white. The closure was the ugly sore that bore its head after years of unspokens, an administration that had no interest in the town being viable, and overall complacency. A glimmer of hope settled upon me as I sat there, remember that day, when a cool-looking older black lady with a huge gray-white afro visited me at the high school and told me she worked for an organization called Advocacy for Community and Rural Education, and they wanted to feature me in their newsletter. She was driving a red Pontiac van with personalized text that said MIZZDB, Ms. DB. Dorothy Singleton is her name. I was intrigued. In addition to Consolidation on the Brink, I'd also attended Presidential Classroom in January, and they wanted to know about that experience. I was so nervous. She asked me a few questions about the Presidential Classroom experience before hitting the hard stuff. How do you all feel about consolidating? How do you think the students would transition? I had the biggest knot in my throat when she was asking me those questions. I could feel myself getting more emotional with each question. Yes, I was graduating, but this was my school. Why were they closing my school? Why was this happening to my school? After the interview, Dorothy handed me a membership form and invited me to join their organization. She said, I understand what you may be feeling now. My school was closed, and let me tell you, the hurt never goes away. But what we are trying to do is save other schools from going through what we have already. That indescribably stirred me. I didn't want another community to feel the hurt that we were feeling. It stirred me so much that not only did I become a member of Advocacy for Community and Rural Education, but my mom, my dad, and my younger brother also became members. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be a part of the movement, but I had no idea about the plans that Dorothy had for me. The next summer, I became the organization's first youth board member. Initially, I was so afraid to say anything in the meetings. They would have to pry a response out of me. I just didn't feel like I was smart enough or bold enough to be around all of those powerful people. The board president would ask me, "Candace, what do you think about this?" Or, "Candace, what do you think about doing that?" My answer would always be, "Yeah, that sounds good." At the time in my life, I was so nonchalant. I didn't like a lot of fuss and mostly just went with the flow. I'm still like that. But they all saw something greater in me. The board members were all so embracing. I was going into my sophomore year at the University of Central Arkansas, literally just beginning to find my way in the world. I didn't know much about the nonprofit sector and all that it entailed, but I knew it was something that I wanted to become more engaged with and learn more about. It all started with the number 350. That number has bound rural communities across the state. Communities separated by geography and racially different. 350 took the most prized institution in our communities, but it did not take our hope and will to fight and make our communities anew. Thank you.
$350. Thank you, Candace. Thank you for your passion and your dedication to rural education. Let us acknowledge the power of organizing to advocate on behalf of rural communities and our children's future. Our next story comes from Ben Goodwin, the executive director of our house.
I gotta be close to the paper here. How did I find myself in this room, surrounded by artificial light, beeping machines, and whirring ventilation systems, with my tiny daughter, whom I'm not allowed to hold, in a plastic box, hooked up to at least a dozen tubes and wires? Elizabeth should be here with me, but she's still recovering from giving birth to Ruby on another floor of the hospital. I look down at the dirt under my fingernails, dirt that doesn't come off despite the dozens of times I've washed my hands in the past few hours alone. I look up and I see a single speck of dust floating through the blue light. I watch that speck float gently through the empty air, and I think about all the dirt, all the life, and all the dreams that are part of our lives no more. 3 years earlier, Elizabeth and I had gotten married. We had been committed partners to each other for years, but when we decided to follow through on our dream to start a farm, we decided to get married to make that commitment concrete to ourselves and the world. We were married on the front porch of her parents' home in rural Spring Hill, Arkansas. Our gift registry included farming tools. The meal was prepared by friends using ingredients grown by Arkansas farmers. It was a celebration of a very specific dream. Newly married, we set out to find a place to grow flowers and organic vegetables, and found one in an idyllic but very remote spot of land nestled in the forest along the bluffs of the Buffalo River. The nearest town was Snowball, but our farm was a 30-minute drive down dirt roads from there. We worked long, dirty days, planting seeds, building hoop houses, laying irrigation, spreading mulch, and then harvesting, washing vegetables, making bouquets, loading the truck, and taking our produce to market in North Little Rock, 2.5 hours away. In our spare time, we would go on long hikes down the Buffalo River Trail, go swimming in the river, or find one of the hidden waterfalls in the forest. We were living a dream we had set for ourselves. Everything we planted was growing. Everything we grew was selling. We were happy, hardworking, at peace, and in love. When we found out we were pregnant, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. It hadn't been part of the plan, but we were thrilled, and this child would just be one more seed for us to nurture. We would take turns carrying the baby on our backs as we worked the fields. As our child grew, she would play in the gardens, swim in the river, get lost in the forest, and make her way back with stories of adventure to tell. On a rainy Memorial Day weekend in 2009, Elizabeth, 24 weeks pregnant and barely showing, had a few shooting pains, then a few more, then enough for us to take a long drive to the Harrison Hospital. To my absolute surprise and shock, the doctor told us Elizabeth was in labor and needed to quickly get to a more advanced hospital in Little Rock, 3 hours away, to have a chance of saving the baby. 24 gut-wrenching hours later, I found myself in that room, staring at that speck of dust. Powerful feelings were washing over me from every direction. I was terrified for my 1-pound, 6-ounce daughter. I was racked with guilt for not being with my wife, who was suffering so much pain and anguish. My heart was breaking for the loss of our farm and the plans and dreams we had made for ourselves and for Ruby. I was drowning. For the next several months, those feelings receded only in fleeting moments. We didn't know if Ruby would live or die, or if she did live, what her quality of life would be. We never got used to the stress and unnaturalness of having our daughter in the hospital. The sounds, the invasive procedures, the constant flow of new faces, never being able to hold her. Elizabeth and I kept as constant a bedside vigil as we could manage, talking to Ruby, reading her books, touching her, and holding her hand when we were allowed to. In those fleeting moments when the stress receded, we found a new dream, one we barely even dared to dream. We dreamed of bringing Ruby home. But where was home? Elizabeth and I were in a new city, and during these months we had to rely on the kindness of an extended network of friends and relatives to have a place to sleep and other support. We asked friends and relatives to check on our farm from time to time, harvesting what they could, taking pictures of its inevitable reclamation by the surrounding forest. During these months, we needed some income, so through connections I had, I was able to get a job as a part-time grants manager for a nonprofit organization called Our House, which had a mission to provide a pathway out of homelessness, particularly for families with children. I was lucky. My boss understood what my family was going through and gave me the flexibility to do what I needed to do to support my wife and daughter. I worked from the office some, but I also worked from the hospital and from whichever house we were crashing at that week. There were plenty of times that I needed to focus all my attention at the hospital, and Our House was supportive of me during these times. As the months went by, very slowly there were signs of improvement. We were able to hold Ruby for the first time, for 15 minutes at a time, on our laps, on a bed, with the ventilator still going, but it meant the world to us. After 4 failed attempts, she was finally able to get off the ventilator. After 3 major surgeries, it seemed that the lingering issue with her intestines might be resolved. After about 5 months, it seemed like our dream might actually come true, that we would be able to bring her home. But first we needed a home. And by this time we felt, deep in our souls, what home really meant, a safe place for our daughter to grow and feel loved, for the 3 of us to be a family together. We found a place to live in the city, near the hospital where she would have many follow-up appointments. We said a quick goodbye to our farming plans and began preparing our new home for its most important arrival. I will never forget the day we brought Ruby home. When we held her for the first time in our living room, it felt like the quietest place in the universe. Finally, she was free from the noise, the lights, and the constant commotion of the hospital. A quiet moment holding my daughter in our own home was a dream come true. As our tiny child grew, we loved and appreciated Ruby in a way we never would have if we hadn't experienced several terrifying months afraid of losing her. We celebrated her so deeply, her first steps, her first words, her every word, even her every breath, because we remembered when we couldn't take those breaths for granted. We also had our own trauma to work through. Being the best parents we could be was job number 1, but taking care of each other and taking care of ourselves was vital for us as well. Over those same years, I poured myself into my work at Our House, drawing inspiration from the strength, resilience, and wisdom of our families as revealed in moments big and small. A grandmother grieving for her daughter while rearranging her life to care for her 4 young grandchildren. A single father moving heaven and earth so he could ride his bike to work by 5 a.m. and get his son to our early childhood center each day. A 2-year-old girl comforting and reassuring her mother that the shelter they just moved into could be a safe place for them. A mother who, despite many cycles in and out of shelters, learned how to effectively advocate for her son to receive the therapy services he needs. Every parent I talked to, every story I heard, brought me back to that yearning for home that I felt so clearly and so powerfully when my ability to provide one for my daughter was in doubt. Elizabeth and I have enjoyed every advantage in the world. We both come from stable middle-class backgrounds. We have a very supportive network of family and friends, and we have a great relationship with each other. But even with all these advantages, one adverse experience wrecked our dreams and nearly wrecked our family. It was only because of the support of family and friends, the care provided by dedicated medical professionals, and a healthy dose of divine providence that we were able to pull through. Most of the homeless parents I meet every day are battling to overcome a lifetime of their own traumas without a fraction of the privilege my family enjoys. In the face of these odds, they are resolute in their desire to provide a bright future for their children, and I am equally resolute in my desire to help them succeed. So I have a new dream now. I dream that our house can be the community of support that struggling families need to overcome trauma, to find their strength and purpose, to achieve their own dreams. On our 7-acre campus in downtown Little Rock, every day I see signs of this dream becoming a reality. A young child, once timid and shy, now bounding to his favorite teacher for a hug. A teenager finding her powerful voice in music and performance. A mother, after years of working dead-end jobs, landing a job that she loves. A family moving into a home of their own with a backyard and a bed for every child. And whenever doubt creeps in, whenever I falter, I have a living, breathing, intelligent, creative, 9-year-old daughter named Ruby to remind me that dreams really can come true.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for turning your struggle into inspiration, into action. We know that by continuing to build our communities, you will be able to achieve your new dream. Next is Meta Smith. She is the storyteller and communications coordinator at Communities Unlimited.
I guess I need the box. Not as tall as I thought it was. I had to go on a last-minute business trip to DC. I'd applied to be a social media ambassador for a large nonprofit event. I never thought they'd actually pick me. I was relatively new to the industry and my following wasn't huge, but I felt honored. I finally felt successful. I sat on the front row in a glass room on Pennsylvania Avenue. The organizers had assembled an expert and racially diverse panel. They had graphs and charts and spoke intelligently about minority and poverty issues. But a small voice in the back of my mind wanted to ask during the Q&A, have any of you ever been poor? I mean, really poor. Have you ever lived in Section 8 housing? Have you ever been an angel on the angel tree? Have you had to wait in line with the hope that someone will help your family? Have you budgeted food stamps? Do you understand what it takes to fight? The panel's theories, ideas, and statistics felt so far away from what I know of the reality of poverty. How can you expect people who are just trying to hold on to do more? It's almost impossible to think beyond food, clothing, and shelter when those are the things you need to survive. When I was in the 6th grade, my mom, my sister, and I had to stay with a friend of my mother's. We all slept in a small room in one bed. I didn't realize at the time that we were homeless. We didn't have anywhere else to go. We had tried the women's shelter, but they were closed for remodeling, and the shelter had temporarily relocated 30 miles south. But we didn't have a car, and there wasn't any form of public transportation, and we certainly couldn't afford a taxi. How can you help people you don't even know? How can you help them win a war when you've never experienced the battlefield? So why did I win my war against poverty? My weapons were my support system and one word: graduate. Graduate from high school, graduate from college, work hard. My mom never said the words, "You have to go to college," but my sister and I were never allowed to do anything less than our absolute best. I had an interim report card sent home in the 4th grade, and I had a C in one subject. I remember this clearly because my mom was sitting on the toilet, pointing her finger at me and saying, "I never want to see anything like this again." She didn't, until my senior year of college in data analysis. She gave me a break because the week before, my nan and my brother had both passed away. If my sister and I ever asked about jobs, she would more often than not find a person who had that job and make us ask, "How do I get it?" My mother fought for me when I was a child to make sure I had every resource, every opportunity available to me. She checked every report card, she went to every parent-teacher conference. She had me tested for learning disabilities. She read to me. She called special meetings with teachers when she saw I was struggling. I wouldn't have made it without her, or without my brother and sisters, my grandparents, my aunt and cousins, teachers and neighbors doing every little thing they could. To win the war against poverty, you have to have support and encouragement, and you can never, ever give up. You will be knocked down by systems and people, and they will try to keep you in the exact same place. I know that having people on your side can be the difference between surviving and thriving. I'm sharing my story for all the warriors, whether you have a support system or are going it alone. You are not truly alone, even though it feels that way most of the time. We number in the millions. We have followed an unspoken rule to keep silent about the reality of our American dream. It is time to step from the shadows and tell your story. And always remember, you're braver than you believe, and stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. Thank you.
Thank you, Meta, for reminding us that you're braver than you believe, you are stronger than you seem, and you're smarter than you think. Organizing for our communities is hard work, but acknowledging your words, we know that we are not alone. We're now going to listen to Tamika Edwards, the Executive Director of Philander Smith College Social Justice Institute.
I don't think I need this. I had pictured myself coming up here to move this and then falling, and so I'm glad that I did. Glad it didn't work out that way. So hello, everybody. So I'm gonna try my best to get through this and not look at you, so I can get through it. So Scholastic books. Just about everyone I know remembers the Scholastic book fairs, right? They were the highlight of my school year, the anticipation. Waiting, watching the librarians and other staff busily rearranging the library and strategically placing the book displays in a way not to disturb the students who still needed to use the library. The buzz, kids talking about what they were planning to get this year, the excitement. Thinking about those thin, colorful catalogs. I couldn't wait to get mine, so I could thumb through each page and put a check mark by everything I wanted. Here they come. My eyes lit up when the teacher presented them to the class with instructions. Be sure to take these home to your parents and decide what you want. I hurried home to show my mama. The time I would get this time, I would get everything I wanted. Yes. My mother, my rock, my first teacher, the woman who put everything on the line for her girls, the one I knew loved me more than anything and wanted to give me everything she never had. What parent didn't? Although my mother and father were married, we didn't have a lot of money. I knew we lacked, but I didn't realize we were considered poor because my mother always ensured we had what we needed. However, I knew we struggled financially. She never wanted us to see her worried. I remember her working several jobs at a time to make ends meet. She was strong, had grit, worked hard, did what was right, helped others, but we still struggled financially. Gosh, I hated what poverty did to us. I do this every time I tell this story. Okay, get it together, T, get it together. And when book fair time came around, I noticed that my once jovial mother always became sad. I later learned that her language was giver. She loved and still loves making others happy by presenting gifts. But she couldn't quite make it work for book fair time. It wasn't a necessity, you know, shelter, food, clothes. It was a luxury. And book fair time came and went. And I didn't get much of anything that year, maybe a pencil or a coloring sheet, but she always tried. I knew she always tried. She was hopeful that the next year would be different. That hopefulness always got me through because she believed she could do more next time. Next time, she said. I couldn't comprehend her overwhelming love for me and desire to ensure that every need and wish until my daughter went to kindergarten. The Scholastic Book Fair came around. She brought home that thin catalog with the same excitement. She immediately pointed out everything she wanted, a familiar feeling. We both checked off what she wanted. She saw a cute book for a baby brother. We set a hefty budget. We woke up early to get to school. We found the books and rushed to the register. As I prepared to check out, I cried. I purchased everything on her list and a little more.
There's a quote that reminds me of the work that's being done here today. It's by Margaret Mead, and it says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Thank you. Thank you, Rupa, Candace, Ben, Meta, Tamika, and every organizer and advocate working to make a positive change in the state of Arkansas. Can I ask for a standing ovation for these folks? It takes tremendous courage to share your story. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your love for Arkansas. Now we will take questions from the audience. If I can get you folks to stand back here so the audience can ask you questions. They're all yours. Ask your questions.
Oh, great.
If you hold up your hands, we'll bring a mic to you.
Well, your stories were amazing, and they don't have any questions because they're still processing what you shared. Again, can we give them another round of applause? would like to remind you that I want you to visit the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation Facebook page and website for later in October for some more videos of the incredible stories of our communities and the change happening in them. Today, you can use the hashtag OAOM to follow the stories of our organizers and advocates here today. And also keep checking the Facebook page and our website, because we're going to continue to share stories of versions of our stories that change hearts, minds, and policies. Thank you so much.